Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the things we know. This is an unplanned but very necessary moment for Lisa and I to come in and just do a whole episode on this topic because we are in the second week, just past the second week into the third week of January 2026, and nothing has been normal.
No.
So,
That's a bit of an understatement, but go ahead.
everything we are witnessing, everything we are talking about, yeah, I mean, we laugh and cry a lot through this because it is not normal. It's not normal to just be like our normal go-to, our baseline is pretty positive for most people I know and hang out with and see every day. Like, the sun's out in January. That's great. There's things to look forward to. We've got tickets to things. And then also at the same time, so many people we don't even know, but we care about because we're all humans, we're all Americans, and we are, or just all humans, so many people are suffering, and it is really, really hard to live life as normal, as if none of it is happening and act neutral. And yet sometimes we find ourselves in conversations or work situations, and people, like I keep hearing people say it's so weird to be worried about humanity, but also like have to talk about first quarter or fourth quarter profits from last quarter or something like that.
Right.
um, it's about how to stay awake without burning out. It's how to stay engaged without collapsing and how to care for our nervous systems so we can remain present for the long work ahead. Because this is not something anyone can sit out. And, not that we ever thought we were, but definitely step up even more. And we don't really have this scripted. This is just a conversation Lisa and I are having, in which we felt like we should just record.
Yeah. Um, I was just saying this to a friend yesterday. So again, just so you guys understand, because by the time this airs, who the fuck knows what will have happened. But we're recording this on January 15th. This will come out whatever the last Tuesday of January is. We just had and if you haven't watched it, I'm going to invite you to go back and watch it and share as much as humanly possible. We just had our interview with Christy from buildtomorrow.chai. We did that in end of 2025, before really the Minneapolis stuff had exploded. Um, so I was saying to a friend yesterday that like I am doing everything in my power to stay hopeful. Because if you listened to one of our episodes at the end, I don't know if it was the winning streak. I don't know which one it was, because at this point, not only is it season 4, but just life. I can't keep straight what pods are what. But um, I did not want to carry any of 2025 into 2026. And so part of that is about being able to stay excited and grounded in the things I want to accomplish in 2026. And the government is really doing its damnedest to pull my attention, right? And so when when this all hit LA in June of last year, it was bad. And then it hit Chicago and Portland in October, and it was worse. Chicago was markedly worse than what it was like in LA. And now Minneapolis is worse than Chicago. And it's and I don't know about you. Do you have ties to Minneapolis?
I have, I have, what's interesting is there's a lot of Minnesotans who moved to Portland for slightly milder weather. And
Sure,
so I have a
sure.
lot of people in my life that are from there.
Okay.
And
And
I definitely from HCI, like have some people
mm,
I'm in touch with that I coached who are from there.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my experience of Minneapolis, I have
So
extended
no
family.
ties, no ties, just people
Yeah,
I care
yeah.
about. They're
I've
such
ex
nice people.
They are. I have extended family there. Rachel, who led is leading the Best Friend Project. She lives there part time. She's from there, but she lives there part time. And then I have two really great memories of Minneapolis. One being that's where we kicked off the AIDS ride in 1999. So that is holds my heart. And then Charlotte had a really good dance competition there, and I don't know what year that was, but so I know Minneapolis a little bit, let alone, of course, we both love Prince and Trip Shakespeare and all those kinds of things. So it's like there, even though I'm not from there, it runs through the blood, right? Plus,
right.
it's just straight up blue cities, right? Cities that are
Yeah.
run by Democratic mayors.
Well, the
But this,
idea that these sanctuary cities are they're
correct,
now trying to declare them unconstitutional. And
right?
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
Which,
cut you off,
no,
but
no,
yeah,
no.
it's like
Which
it's
it's insane
because
though, because it's sanctuary cities. What all that means is we want to bring in our fellow man and protect them, protect them. It's literally the fucking Statue of Liberty.
I know, and also it's just like I grew up in a very Republican household, and definitely the belief and the like some of their heroes were constantly saying we don't we are like Reagan was all about like we exist like where we are in the world with an ocean on each side. We are meant to attract
Right,
people who want a better life, and we can't like so much of the U.S. economy runs on um, undocumented people and we can't ignore that, right? And so
right.
it's just like and that's just always been a problem to solve and make better, not criminalize anyway like that. Ugh, I mean that alone, I mean, so like what's let's just recap the last 2 weeks. I don't even know if I can actually, my
I
brain is
mean,
totally swimming because there's the horrible incident on the 7th where Renee Nicole Good was shot in the face, but
murdered.
murdered, yeah, by an ICE agent for simply filming. And she was parked. She was about to move, and she was being told to move. She was being given confusing orders. And not only is the administration and everyone who all the right wing media
Backs
doubling
down.
down, saying that she was some domestic terrorist, and they're rewriting the whole story, even though like we can all see with our eyes what actually happened. Um, like they couldn't even allow an investigation into the shooting, which is what all law enforcement always does, no matter what. Even when they want to back their person, they
I mean,
always do an investigation for their own protection, for
well,
their
I
own
was gonna say
protection. So
couldn't
like if
or
they
wouldn't. It's
no,
not a
they
couldn't.
wouldn't.
They wouldn't
Well,
allow it.
well, maybe yes. I mean, I wasn't really thinking about the word I was using, but you're right. They just wouldn't. They couldn't even bring themselves to do it. They wouldn't do it. And now they're investigating the poor family that this woman comes from, and so it's like all of that has been really rough. At the same time, everybody's costs of healthcare are going up. Like all the things that we have no money for is going to create a problem that they then say they have to react to. And it's just been horrific to watch. It's we just see sad story after sad story, like a 17-year-old who's a citizen getting tackled because he's brown and dragged out of his job. And the thing that's getting me is like all of this demonstration of force with guns out and all this violence, all just to release them like a few hours later with no charges because they have no reason to do it. That is not getting enough attention as far as I'm concerned, but it is causing so much trauma for everybody who's experiencing it and even witnessing it. So it's just so there's all of that, right? Then there's all of the like what happened right before that. My kids were backpacking in South America and had no idea, and they came out and they're like, "What's this with Venezuela?
Oh shit,
What's
they didn't
this?"
even know?
Right? What's this
Holy
with
crap.
Greenland? Like there is what's
Wow.
what and like also then there's just still the delay on complying with the deadline for the Epstein file. So there's so much that's traumatizing for people who are victims of sexual assault, of violence. There's so much trauma for people who are afraid to leave their homes. um, and then there's just all the vitriolic polarization from the top, from leadership. And there's just and like none of this is normal. So it makes sense if you feel crazy. I really feel for parents of littles, and
Mm,
I can somewhat relate to it because I do have a neurodivergent kid who isn't as aware, and he is a really positive outlet. He's very intelligent, but there's like certain things he's like can take in and not take in. So it is strange to be like, hey, let's make your lunches, like for people with little kids, let's get you to school,
right.
let's get you to practice, let's like people who are dealing with that and like also trying to just keep their wits about them. And then I think of the poor parents with kids in elementary schools that are surrounded by ICE in Minneapolis, and I think like, oh my God, it's a lot. It's a lot to just take in and hold and think about. And then at the same time, like, I know a ton of people like you and me, who are like, what can we do? Like, we feel so helpless. How do we just support from here? And then that's being recategorized as, you know, self-important wine moms who are like getting trained to be dissidents. It's like nobody's paying
I
them, nobody's training them. These are actual moms who are
I am
so sad.
volunteering to be a self-important white woman wine mom. I am doing this free of charge, as I have been since I turned 18. I want to
The
make
only thing is
very
you're not in the
clear,
suburbs, but yeah.
very
Um,
clear that I am doing this voluntarily.
but like this recharacterization and dehumanization to make it sound like it's organized and it's evil and it's just like when what it is a bunch of people who can't stay home witnessing this because they're so sad for these other mothers and these other children, right? And I don't know why that's like why anyone would believe that that's part of some cabal, but like that's where we're at. That's how like everyone is seeing things from different directions, and that's dizzying just in itself. Anyway,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, so for me, one, we forgot to talk about the rewriting of history of January 6th on January
oh
6th,
yeah,
right? So,
that's true because
of
that got glossed
course,
over.
right, because of course they're rewriting history in real time now with Renee Nicole Good, but they completely rewrote history on January 6th. You know, they're patriots. Renee Nicole Good is a domestic terrorist. Um, yeah, so there's Venezuela, and you know, there's a lot out there about, oh, these are all these things are happening. Venezuela, ICE to deflect from Epstein. I don't agree with that. I think each one of these things are their own things, right? He's not releasing the Epstein files. He is going to war with Venezuela, trying to go to war with Greenland and Mexico, or trying to occupy them, right? He's already done it with Venezuela. ICE is happening, and he's threatening, you know, the Insurrection Act for humans trying to take care of their neighbors so that they don't get kidnapped and disappeared. They've amped it up. It is no longer even people, brown people, right? It is anybody who is doing the work to protect their community. So all of these are their own buckets. They're not, I don't think there's any deflection. It's just absolutely their own buckets. And yeah, I mean, you live in Portland, I live in LA. I personally am not seeing it on a regular basis. I suspect that will change soon again. I don't know. I don't think you're seeing it on a regular basis, not in the way that like our friends that are in Chicago or Minneapolis are currently. Um,
It's a little spread out here, and then we have all the stuff happening outside the ICE facility.
mm-mm.
Um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
we had like for us right
which is
now,
one city block,
right?
which
I
is what
saw
they
that
refer to as
today.
insurrection, but whatever.
Right.
Anyway,
Right. And we've been having some ice situations in Downey, which unfortunately is an area that we go to quite a bit because some of Charlotte's best friends live in Downey. Um, so yeah, it's and as mothers, you and I are coaches, as women who care, it comes with this like cost right now, this cost of trying to be as normal as possible so not to be drug under. But it's exhausting. And I don't have a conversation really with anyone, clients, friends, where this isn't part of the conversation, even in my client calls, right? Like we're supposed to be working on them, but it's part of the fabric of what we're going through right now. And it is beyond just being stressful. It is moral distress. So again, the question is, how do we live our lives, stay engaged when we are literally, I just feel like we're constantly, like we're on one of those balance balls at the gym and we're constantly being like pushed, you know, trying to stay steady. It's it's exhausting. And I think the thing that's interesting, as you were talking, I was sort of thinking about, 2025, like there was this, we talked about this in season three, right? We understood what the second Trump regime was going to be. We know Project 2025. We understood what was coming. it was expedited in a way we didn't understand. And and now this is a level of cruelty and evil. Yes, you can say we can call it the American Gestapo. Yes, we can refer to 1930s Germany. But as you and I've talked about in cast, this is us. This is who America is. We are going back in time to our slave trade history. We are and bringing it forward again into 2026.
There's somebody I follow, and I cannot remember her name because I come across her sometimes, and I do follow her, but I can't remember her name. She's a beautiful Black woman historian, and she says this is, we keep saying Gestapo because it's easier for us to distance ourselves from it, but it's
Yeah,
actually like the what was it, like the
the
slave,
slave trade.
well, not slave trade. There's a word for it. It was like slave catchers, but there was a
Oh,
word for
yes.
it. Like it was
I
government
saw her too.
funded.
That's what I
It
was
was
talking about.
government funded.
Right, exactly. That's why this is
Um,
more on a line. I mean, obviously SS and Gestapo was government funded in Germany as well. But to
right.
think that we're
But
borrowing
here
from
it's
Germany,
American. She's saying
correct.
it's
This
it's
is
it's
this is
homegrown.
homegrown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. And
Mm,
here's the thing. And I'm going to be blatant. I'm done pussyfooting around. I do not believe that this is a moment where anyone can be disengaged anymore. You and
mm,
I have been, and I'm not going to speak for you,
mm,
but
mm,
you and I have been willing to say, not everybody can do what we do. Fuck that
yeah.
noise. If you are not engaged in some way it's very, I was thinking about this morning when I was working out. It's this weird conundrum when I'm on social media between thinking, oh, this is exhausting to watch ice raid after ice raid. Like it hurts my very being. But then when I come across a funny video, I scroll right by. So it's like part of me wants my feed to have a different like algorithm,
Hmm.
but I have no patience right now for anyone who is just going about their day like nothing fucking is happening. I have no patience for it. And I'm sorry,
Yeah.
listener, if that is you, but I invite you to do something. You don't have to be at a protest. Give money. We'll put the link to some of the immigration funds that you can give money to in our notes. Share shit on social media. Talk to your family and friends. If you don't want to be on the front lines, I get that. It is scary. I go to all the protests and I am always nervous. But this you if you wonder what you would have done during 1930s Germany, you're doing it right now.
It's interesting too, because so many people who are so horrified and posting a lot. I'm not at all paying attention to whether or not they're also posting about this. This is not what I'm trying to get at. I'm not like dissecting it, but it sometimes seems like it's easier to be more horrified by what's happening in Gaza than it does to realize like it is happening right there in Minnesota, right? Like
I
they can
mean, you're
see
right.
it
Both are true,
differently.
right? But yes. Yeah.
No, both are true.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
minimizing one at all, but
Right.
I do like I am really noticing the psychology of this. Like people, it's not that they don't care. It's not that they voted for this. They literally like psychologically are slowly, like digesting this, and we're like, hurry up and do something.
And
The more we use our voice, the more we use our bodies, especially as privileged people, to stand up and say no more, the more potential we have for, withstanding this. I don't know. I go
yeah.
back and forth between hopeful and wise enough to know from a 30-foot view that like this authoritarian type of behavior doesn't ever last. But I also
Right.
know it's not a blip. It wasn't like a week in history. It was years. And we got to buckle up. And yeah, it's not
And I will
normal.
say, I want to say, I've even seen some new people show up on my Facebook feed that I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you post in forever. And they're posting about this stuff. So I do
Mm-hmm.
feel the tide's turning, right? And I
Agree.
know I'm sounding angry, and I am. Um, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But my point is, I still see too many people who are just like, I don't get into politics. Great. You think you're safe? You are not safe.
Yeah.
At some point, they will come for red states. They will find those pockets. I mean, Ohio's as red as blood is, and they're there. Now
Yeah.
they're in the more Democratic run cities,
They're in
but they're
Louisiana
there.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say one thing I will still agree with is it's really hard to try and stay on top of every single issue. It really
Totally.
is. So, like, I still highly recommend picking a few.
Yep.
It's hard because you may be very and rightfully and importantly focused on women's voting rights or women's reproductive rights. And those are like some of those really scary, important things are happening while all this horror happens. And that's by
Right.
design. The
Yeah.
more obviously horrific things, you should pay attention to the subtle economic and like gender based things like no fault divorce and marriage
Mm.
age and all that stuff. Like that stuff just quietly passes while we're being horrified by, people with guns drawn in Minnesota and Chicago. Um, so you might be focused on that. Stay focused on that, right? Like,
Yep.
I think like for me, I was just counting up, like just off the top of my head, you know, human rights and treatment of immigrants, the DHS rhetoric and symbolism, the fact that they're using official Proud Boys and KKK songs on like government websites with my tax dollars is always shocking to me because so much of what made them angry enough to like want to take want to vote this way and take things back was to own the libs because they hated being called racist. And then
Now they're
lo and behold,
proudly
now they're
racist.
proudly. It's
Yeah.
just out in the open. It's so strange. The
Totally.
ongoing minimization of violence against women. This one's a little more personal to me, but it should be important to everyone. Is disability benefits being stripped away? That's rapidly coming downhill, especially in blue states where I happen to live. The amount of vitriolic like wars were starting in other places at the same time that there's no money for healthcare costs, like the money being spent on things that I think could be war crimes, and just all the and economic pressure on everyone right now. The amount of people
Yeah.
like the jobs numbers are so low, the unemployment rate is so high. So those are
And we
just
can't
like
even trust those. We can't even trust those numbers to
right.
be real. They might even be worse.
There is actually, I mean, the whole Greenland thing, there's actually way more I could go into that you're probably like, you might be out there going, you didn't mention this, this, and this. Like, seriously, that's where my brain starts to explode. Like, those are the things that have my attention, right? And that's
Yeah.
almost too much for me because I also like have to work and parent and navigate my own, life as well. So it's like, I don't, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to like watching what's happening with healthcare and disability rights and benefits, it's enough to make me, stop and sob, but also stand up and fight and really pay attention to that because that could be easily overlooked in all of these other human rights things. And so figuring out how, and like I do think women are so well trained for this, sadly, especially Gen X women. We are so well trained to like not stop with things that we could have stopped and said, hey, that's bad, that hurts, so that isn't right, and like just put a smile on and like power through, right?
Right.
So we do have some training on compartmentalizing and pushing through, and it's like a good time to lean into that. It's not to say ignore what's happening to you or taking care of yourself, but I think that's just like, okay, I do know how to do that. I do know how to be sad and keep working.
Mm-hmm.
I do know how to be devastated, let myself cry, and like keep my eye on the prize. And I like that's where I'm at with it right now. Is like reminding myself, hand on heart, this isn't normal. No, like this isn't good for anybody, even people who think
Right.
they're for it.
Mm.
And like I still like I'm not going to let them take my compassion and empathy away, as angry as I am. And so how do I move with this and use my voice, use my privilege?
Absolutely. And I think and in an ability to do that, I think it's really important because it's starting to feel normal, right? This isn't normal, but it's starting to feel normal, right? We're 13 months into this regime, and even the speed of which everything is happening feels relatively normal now, right? Like everybody's cortisol levels must be through the fucking roof. I know mine are. And And the way I try to ground myself is reminding, and again, I said this in our 150th episode, like looking at how things, how they're trying to make us scared and we're doing it anyways, right? So to watch like the March for Renee Good last weekend, you know, we Charlotte and I went and we got down there and it was a good group of people, but it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, and I'm in downtown LA. Yes, I live here, so there are people that live here, but you can't look at downtown LA's rally and think, oh, that's indicative of LA. Like there were rallies all over LA. LA is vast, as I've said before, but there was a good sized rally downtown. So I look at that. I look at even after a woman gets murdered because she didn't kowtow to a man with a small ego, or a big ego, I should say, small sense of self. Um, he More people came out, right? Nobody's hiding in Minneapolis. Chicago was the same way. Portland's the same way. And so I look to those things to bolster me in these times, because otherwise I think I literally think I would burn out. Like I feel like my body would actually like burn from the inside out. I'd turn into like a burnt piece of toast. Um, and so I think that's what I would offer for those of you who are trying to regulate is I keep wanting to say look for the helpers. So, Mr. Rogers, but that's what it is. That's what it feels like. Look to these cities who are being terrorized and see their strength to borrow from, essentially. Because
Yeah.
again, if you're not bothered by this, that's not strength. You're keeping your distance. And
Mhm.
we do not have time for you to keep your distance right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, everything I've ever suffered in life is always made better to know, like, oh, it's not just me.
Mm,
Um, I like,
1,000,000%.
because I mean, something that we're sorely lacking in this culture is self-awareness as as a culture, as a nation, I think some cities do it better than others. I think some nations have actually tried to model that when they can. There's no way to make up for the atrocities, but we're going to hold commissions and acknowledge it, and like that goes a long way. Um, but that's a huge part of like not just who you and I are as people and as coaches and as moms, but like it's just what how we've reacted to like
Hmm.
learning and growing more is like, okay, look at ourselves, like look at myself first. So
Totally.
constantly I've always been like, am I the asshole in this situation, or other people, or like am I overreacting? And maybe I have too strong, we've talked about that internal locus of control, like too strong to go like, are you overreacting, right? Because I grew up in that kind of culture and being told that a lot,
Mm,
and it's like I wasn't worried about that here, but it is always really good to be affirmed. I said this after January 6th. It's always good to be affirmed with like, it does feel good to know that I'm not on the same side as the people holding nooses and swastikas. That's kind of
yes.
seems like a basic
it's,
checkpoint for people.
it's
Eh,
a low bar.
it's the lowest bar I can come up with. But
I mean, no
so
one
same
can.
with this whole thing. Like when you see people going, we know what we saw. Don't tell us like and right now, like as we speak, every single social and mainstream media platform is owned by right leaning people, and yet still they still seem to think they're the victims of bad media, which is fascinating. And because every once in a while someone gets through with a piece that doesn't make them look good, and they're like, that's fake. It's like,
Right.
wow, I mean, you really do control the airwaves, and they
Yeah.
have all kinds of money to shut down anything if they get to that point, and they probably will, or they'll try. But the funny thing is the other side was always, at the other side, extremely right leaning people were always so paranoid that was going to happen to them, and it didn't. And it's just another example of every accusation, every fear, every paranoia is
Everyone.
actually a confession of something you thought of doing, and you're
Yep.
doing it.
Yep.
um anyway, I'm going way off track here, but my point is like I've always felt better when someone says, "You're not alone. This is not normal. It's actually crazy what's happening right now." Like, so that was our intention too. If you're out there feeling that way, you're not alone. You're not crazy. This is not normal.
And we're not, as human beings, we are actually not we are not built to process this fire hose of threat without that kind of support of knowing, right, that we're not alone. I mean, again, if you don't feel safe going to a march, I'm actually really appreciating. I'm seeing a lot of influencers now say this, right? Like there are so many ways to help that doesn't have to be going to a march. That just happens to be the thing I like doing. And but if you do go to one, again, the same friend that I was talking to, she's driving up to Minneapolis this weekend, and or maybe it's next weekend, and she was like, we're thinking about maybe pulling off and just like getting out and waving some flags. I was like, you will feel so much better because it does being in that kind of energy and peaceful, always fucking peaceful, always peaceful, always peaceful. And it is energizing. The thing is, our nervous system does not distinguish between being chased by a bear and this sustained moral threat. So this is so unhealthy for every human being. Whether you voted for this and are against it, whether you're voted for this and like, huzzah, this is exactly what I want, or whether you are like Kari and I and dying inside with every single moment, none of this we are not built for this. This is
It's just,
doing our health such a disservice.
I think we have
So sad.
we have twin algorithms, so you probably saw the same one, but it like had every year 216 to now, and it was like you're overreacting, you're overreacting, you're
Yes.
overreacting, you're overreacting, and then like, oh, you think now?
Yeah.
Um, I honestly like
I
was
wish
thinking
I was overreacting.
if anyone who thinks we're overreacting is actually listening right now, what I would say to that is
We're
like,
probably not the
really?
pod for you.
Right. Also, like, this is actually like been spelled out in Project 2025, and Steve
Yep.
Bannon has said flood the zone. Like we
Yep.
want it to be this chaotic. We want people to be afraid. Like they are literally creating the conditions from which they will declare the Insurrection Act. Like they are creating the conditions that like it is Minnesota is in some of the top percentages in everything. They were low crime. Minneapolis had
Mm,
really done a lot in 5 years. There were like lower crime rates. Oh, lower crime rates, really strong education, like
yep.
good mutual aid. Yes, they did find a widespread fraud and have been addressing it. Like it has been addressed, and it doesn't fit the narrative that this
Right.
guy went in, this ridiculously paid right wing influencer went in. I don't even want to say his name. Went in and exposed, and what like they fail to realize is, first of all, it's been addressed widely, and the kingpin was a white woman, doesn't fit the narrative, and the
Right.
whistleblower was Somali. But it is
Mm.
a lot of people are theorizing that like the timing of that gave them the impetus to bring a huge number of troops there
Ah,
to find
wow.
corrupt Somali citizens and get rid of them or deport them or detain them. And all of this is a little bit of a plan, right? So
I mean,
whether
I
that's
think that's the thing
paranoid or
that,
overreacting, it doesn't matter, because look what's happening is
well,
like people can't even drop their kids off at elementary school right now. So this is not overreacting, and if you think it is, just stop listening.
yep, this would be the moment where we invite you to turn us off. Um, so two things. One, and I'm not sure if this is true because you keep talking about them going to school. I heard that Minneapolis went online for 4 weeks. I think they went virtual.
I might be talking about a school. I think it's Whittier. It's right
Okay.
outside,
Got
and
it. Got it.
there was still some things happening at a bus stop, like as recently as yesterday. I don't know
You know
about
what's
today.
so interesting? So, okay, so what I want to say two things. First thing is the plan. I think the one thing we have made the mistake of doing is to keep underestimating how, I mean, clearly Trump is demented and dementia addled. I see it as clear as day. my mother-in-law was, my dad was. Like I see all those things, right? However, there's a whole machine behind him. So to your point, all of this is planned. It's not, we look at Trump and go, oh my God, he's like going in the middle of a press conference or walking to the window to look at the ballroom. He's losing his mind. Yes, two things can be true, right? But there's still this whole mechanism behind him that is running all of this stuff. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
A. It's
I
completely
don't
planned.
I
But
do not at all sit here and think it's all one person. No.
no, no, no. It never is. It never is,
Yeah.
even in Democratic administrations, obviously. The other thing, though, I saw this the other day, and again, you're right, we have twin algorithms, but I had not really comprehended. Rachel said this to me when we were texting, because again, we're recording the week that the Best Friend Project came out, and Monday night before it dropped, she was like, "Are you sure you want to put this out? This doesn't feel right." And again, as somebody who's from Minneapolis, like she's feeling what I was feeling after Chicago, and it was just like, how can we do anything but focus on Minneapolis? And she said Minneapolis has been through so much, and I just like it. She said it, and I was like, yes, of course. And I hadn't really thought of it, but when you think about George Floyd, and then I'm so sad I can't remember this man's name, Philato, the lunch man that was
Oh
that
yeah.
same, right? Um, Melissa Hortman, this bullshit daycare thing. Um, there was something else that the other day that I was like that I had completely forgotten about. There was another Minneapolis. There has been Minneapolis has gone through a ton of shit in the since 2020. And it was these things that I was like, they've happened so here and there that I hadn't really thought of like all the things. Like last year with LA, it was like, oh, we had the fires and then we had ice. But Minneapolis, when you look at what they've gone through, like it's insane the amount of shit that has gone down there. And so this is again insult to injury, right? Like you mentioned thinking that about ICE coming into LA after the fires, like we were a wounded animal. That's kind of when I saw that list of shit that had happened
Yeah.
in Minneapolis, I was like, oh my God. And yet, to your point, they've done so much to turn things around, even with all of that
Hmm.
stuff. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. I do want to say this. Like, I don't want to gloss over this part because obviously we're emotional and this can be very stream of consciousness with us because we're riding the wave of emotions with you. Like all the things like and we talk about this a lot and it is so important and it's my personal work is just naming and staying with my emotions. I'm so programmed, as so many of you probably relate to, and I know you do this too, Lisa. You feel an emotion and immediately you care about whoever else is feeling that emotion,
Yes.
and you don't stay with yourself long enough to feel it, but like tears spill out because you got to feel it, right? So the responses of anxiety, rage, grief, numbness, despair, hypervigilance could be like a reason to just unplug for a bit, like just to take care of yourself. It's going to keep happening. Other people you care about and admire are going to kind of take the shift. So we're not saying
Mm.
stay vigilant and be on the front line of anything. We're saying like, you got to take care of yourself because it's a long, long road. It's really normal to feel any of those things. And that doesn't mean you're withdrawing. I mean, it didn't even last a week, but I deactivated my
It was a good
Instagram. And
college try.
there are times when I'm pretty certain I just want nothing to do with it. And that may happen. But also like I really want people to know about the retreat. So the timing's never good. So
And also
anyway,
and you're to your point, like yes, it's being overrun by very right-wing people. However, lots of social movements from Egypt. I mean, there's been so many things that happened
that's true.
because of social media. And so,
Right.
what would the
And
civil rights movement have looked like if there was social media? So that's why I don't get off it. I understand the
but
evils of it, but I also understand the power of it.
But we also just, have recently been made aware of billions that have been spent on surveying and,
Yeah.
so surveilling. So, like, don't think anything you do online isn't being watched or
No,
surveilled.
million
And what
percent.
I want to say about that is like, whatever you need to do to regulate, don't feel guilty about that. That's not what we're saying. That is not avoidance, it's capacity building.
Yeah.
Lisa and I have learned to be like, are you ready for this? Because I read something, you might not be in the space for it. Right. So like we even just
Yes,
kind of protect each other before we share things.
we do.
Because there'll be moments where I'm like, nope, I'm not on there. I literally need to sleep. I haven't slept. So,
Yeah.
and obviously there's actually other things I keep saying on both sides of our doors. There's things we're vigilantly working on and caring about. And sometimes the stuff on this side of the door is taking all your time and capacity. So don't mistake what we're saying as like, get the fuck up. It's like, just stay awake and figure out what your capacity is.
Absolutely. And you're kind of teasing about it, but it's true. I mean, you and I do that. Like, I'll be like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, I just saw this. I don't think you should watch it, but can I share like the thumbnail version? And I guess that's an invitation,
We
right?
filter
Like
for each other.
we do filter. And I would invite you if you have friends that are hyper vigilant about all this stuff and you don't have the capacity, let them know. You have said to me, like, I'm not on Instagram right now. I'm like, okay, I'm not, I won't tell you what I just saw. We'll catch up when you're ready, and you do the same for me, right? Like you sometimes send me a text. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I don't want to, And so I think there is to in your regulation, there's still community building, right? The people that are around you, you have to ebb and flow with them as well. Like, I'm here, I'm ready. Tell me what you need. Tell me what I can do. How can I support you? And I'm taking a minute right now.
Yeah.
That is self-care in the best possible way.
Yeah. It's like that time I accidentally wrote, I'm really mad about Ken.
And I'm literally Googling Ken, like, what did Ken do? And then I was like, I don't know what you mean. And you're like, shit, I met men. That was
That's so
amazing.
funny.
That was
So
so
good.
good.
So good.
Okay, so let's talk about one of our favorites. You had the absolute gift of seeing him in person, which is Timothy Snyder. He wrote on tyranny. He's also written some other books. What he was probably on a book tour. What did you see him on, or was he
He
just
was
being
he was
like,
still
"Hey,
talking about On Freedom. No,
on
he was still
freedom"?
talking about,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
I think it was a rescheduled one, but yeah.
got it, got it, got it. So Timothy Snyder on tyranny, on freedom. Um, he says history is shaped by what people do consistently, not heroically. So I want to just take a beat on this one because this is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about regulation. Um, do what you can do and be consistent. So if donating to immigrant aid organizations is what you can do consistently, keep doing that. If you don't have to up level, you got this. Calling your representatives. I have a friend who every time I post about it, she's like, I'm on it. I'll do that. I did this on this day. I'm going to do this on this day. Great. She's got that. Whatever it is, consistency in life is always important more than just like the big bang and then walking away. Nothing happens in those moments. So, what people do consistently, not heroically. Austin, I can't say the word. Authoritarian. All I could see was author.
Mhm.
Authoritarian systems depend on exhaustion and cynicism. And I'm so proud of us for not being there yet. And when I say us, I mean the American people. Not only do they keep going, but more people are coming into the fold. There are many people who voted MAGA that are like, hell fucking no. Even Joe Rogan, fuck that guy, but he's like, what is this, the Gestapo? Yeah. So our cynicism and our exhaustion is where they win. So again,
Mhm.
rest when you need to rest and keep going. Hopelessness is not realism, right? Like you and I talked about hope being a verb. We cannot be so exhausted and cynical that we end up in hopelessness because that is where they get their power. If we are
Yeah.
hopeless, if we are exhausted, if we are cynical, that's where they rise. We can't let that happen.
Mm-mm. They depend on exhaustion, cynicism, hopelessness, and fear. Like
Mm,
the amount of
clearly.
footage we have right now of people going, "Didn't you learn your lesson?"
Right.
As if to say, if you like continue to use your First Amendment right, you should expect to be shot.
Yep.
So yeah. Another Snyder idea. which I find really grounding, is just do not assume that nothing you do matters. It really, really does matter. Heather Cox Richardson says that. Sharon McMahon says it. It's the small acts of showing up locally, refusing lies, like really believing your own eyes and your like your own gut and not what's being fed to you, protecting one another. All that accumulates. It really, really does. History will always show that it's not going to look like it. One thing I've seen Timothy Snyder say again and again on interviews is it could look like the other side is just taken over and winning up until the day before they lose.
Right.
So like even when it's darkest, you have no, and they always say it's always darkest before the dawn. And I hate to say it's going to get darker.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think like there's things that have jaded me in life or taught me. I don't know, but like there are things along the way with both my dad's diagnosis and Griffin's where I couldn't imagine it getting any worse. And I would be like, God, at least it's not that. And then it becomes that. Right. And then it
Yeah.
becomes like, so then I try not to even go into what it could be worse as because it's going to get there eventually.
Yeah.
So like, I'm surprised it hasn't made me like a super darker human, but it has taught me that like, you know, I can handle, I don't want to, but I can handle worse things. So I don't mean, you know what I mean? Like, so just don't assume that nothing you do matters. Truly. And like, we don't need everyone to do everything. That's not at all what we're saying. We just need more people to do something.
Yes. Yeah.
If
I
you,
and I'm going to invite at this moment again, if you haven't listened to last week's episode with Christy and buildtomorrow.chai, please go because she is the epitome of the little things adding up. Her and her community and Chicago at large, they all have their lane and they do those things. Not Christy doesn't have the ability to be at drop off and pick up for at schools, but plenty of people do, right? Christy does her walk-in talks. Like go follow buildtomorrow.chai, CHI. But go back and look at the link tree that's in the show notes. Go in because that list, and some of it's Chicago related, but some of it's bigger, right? Do something, just something, please.
yeah.
And let's go back to regular.
Per hands emoji.
Yeah. I mean, literally, all you got to do on Instagram, like you see something that you're horrified for, and there's this cute little thing that looks like a little paper airplane at the bottom, right? And you click on that, and then you add to your story.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's these two little arrows, and you click on that and you repost it. Like there
Yeah.
are so many ways on social media right now, Instagram in particular. And I used to hate Instagram, but it's kind of become I mean, it feels like where the resistance is. There are so many ways to share this shit. And based on my notifications, like that's how people are seeing shit. Because not everybody's algorithms are different, right? So there are ways to be that are so simple to share.
Mm.
And
Damn.
we still need to regulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, I'm an admitted hothead. So I'm like, I should be looking at my Apple Watch. Like, I wonder what my heart rate is right now based on this episode. Breath work, journaling, if that's your thing, time outside, even in the cold. Those are the things that can regulate your body. I remember, and again, I keep saying this, I'm not trying to be vague, but what's going on inside of my house, not talking about yet. You know it. I reached out to you one day and I was like, how do you, when this is what's happening in your body, what do you do? And you were like, I go outside to take a walk. And I was like, okay, I'm on it. Downtown LA is not the greatest place to take a walk. I'm not going to lie. It was actually a little more stressful than I expected.
You can
But
walk around your pool.
I can go to the pool. I can go to the fire pits. Like I can do so many things. And those are the kinds of, again, those are the kinds of self-care that really ground us, being in nature, being connecting with our breath, getting what's rolling around in our brain down on paper. That's really important ways to keep your nervous system from literally collapsing into shutdown, or as I am doing, rage.
You wear it so beautifully. You're
Thank
hot
you.
with rage.
Thank you.
Um,
Or menopause, not sure.
yeah, I mean, I think what we're talking about is like, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I had this amazing doula for um,
Mm.
all three births. Lonnie, she was great. And I remember her, especially right before I had Peter, because I'd never been through childbirth before. She would do this thing where she'd hold ice cubes right here to get me to understand how desperate you will be for the shallow breath. Because I was like, that's the opposite of what we've been trained. We got to do deep breaths. She's like, you won't be able to do deep breaths. Like you got
Yeah.
to just do shallow breaths to get yourself through it. And I like, didn't really get that through that whole birth. Like it really wasn't until the second and third that I finally was like, okay, I get you now. But like, so there's the right now, not the ideal. But like, it's so important to stay strong and resourced in whatever that means for you. Like, like it's staying fried, frazzled is sort of, kind of letting them win a little bit in terms of the
Totally.
attention economy. So,
Hmm.
yeah, 2 minutes of breath, like hand on heart, I'm fine right now. Like, I'm fine. And
Mm.
seriously, if you have like severe anxiety, we're not pretending like this is all you need to do, but and gosh, so much love to you because that is super hard because we're all like, experiencing anxiety right now. And the fact that some of you live like that, oh,
Yeah.
so obviously you're working with someone on what's going to help you, but like really just hand on your body and realizing like I'm okay right now. Like in this moment, I am fine. Because we can catastrophize and we can, over identify and like be frozen. So yeah, walking outside even when you don't want to, just not feeling like there's something you got to fix,
Mm. Hmm.
just
Yeah.
realizing like, okay, people I have this amazing I do somatic work with this amazing woman who's Afghani whose family had to leave in the cover of night from Afghanistan, and she's like, you know I'm okay. Like people do get through these
Wow.
things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's not belittling anyone's fear. She's just saying like there are people who are suffering and paying the ultimate price for the rest of us, and a lot of people will get through this and be okay, and hopefully we'll learn this time, and
Mhm.
that's just the truth. And the more we can do to like stay aware and vocal about it, maybe the less people will suffer. That's just what drives me.
Yeah. I will share one that and again, people with high anxiety probably already know this one. This was something I just learned this week that I did not know, which
Mm.
is if you're having a severe anxiety or panic attack, and you remind me because of the ice cubes, hold ice cubes in your hands.
Oh yeah, you're right. I did
I
see
had
something about that.
never heard that, and I thought that is fascinating. I think,
Interesting. Interesting that we're talking about ice. That's funny. Ice
oh,
cubes. Yeah.
or ice, like I mean ice cube, like actual
Yeah.
ice cubes, or ice cube the rapper. Like I feel bad for him. Even a little
Iced
humor,
tea.
a little
I
iced
know.
tea.
Actually, I was gonna say I don't scroll by the recipes or the humor. Like they
I
are so
know.
big in my algorithm because like laughing right now
You know what?
is
Laughing, you're right.
my
I do watch
best
the humor
medicine.
things. I think my point was I'm watching because again, we've talked about this, right? Like my feed is also like neck creams and bunion helpers, right? And I just, and
Damn the neck creams.
those are ads, right? So but I have a fair amount of people that I love who
Yeah.
are just not saying a fucking thing. And though
That's
that's the stuff that I'm just like, sorry, not now. I'm not gonna pay attention to what you're talking about right now.
actually there is a uh couple that I follow because they're super funny and fun, and they do those like musical things, the Holderness family, and
Oh,
they
I love
they
them.
put a slide up just saying like their hearts were with Minnesota when Renee was shot, and I
That's
I
all you
think
need.
I messaged them and I was like, you know, I like this shouldn't be such a big deal, but I just want to commend you for that.
Agreed. Like
Yeah,
literally. I agree. It doesn't surprise me about them actually, but it really is that simple. Like I know that there's a lot, like even if you don't want to
just
pick a
show some
side,
humanity. Just
right?
show
A
some
lot's
humanity.
going on right now. This is my business, and so I'm focused on this, but my hearts go out to anybody who's suffering. That's all you need.
Hmm.
It's literally
Hmm.
that simple. It's
Yeah.
literally that simple.
Okay.
I'm going to
So
regulate here for a second. Let me breathe.
also like we kind of covered some of this already, but you know you're seeing it play out in such a beautiful way. It may not look beautiful because it's so fucking scary right now, but community is everything right now. Um, Isolation does feed despair and fear, and that's actually what got us into this mess. Um, so truly connecting more with neighbors has been nice for
Yes.
me. Connecting more with like some other people who I've raised kids with who are like equally concerned, and like having a network that's really helpful. It's just smart to know what kind of resources neighbors can help each other with. So like local connection, it absolutely restores scale and agency, and it'll calm the nervous system.
Yeah, again, it doesn't have to be mean organizing or activism for everyone. It just could be bearing witness, right? Saying, you saw that, right? That feels weird, right? Let's like literally, because in these moments, and again, I think this is by design, right? We're being called all these names. I'm totally adopting wine mom. I've been a wine mom since Tame Impala said that wine moms and stoners listen to their music. I happen to be both. But it was like I'm
Who
all
also
for.
what was
You
his
remember
name? The
that?
guy who did the like the
Oh yeah, Bo.
bow.
Yeah, my I put a post up today with my might contain wine shirt that my kids
Yes,
bought after
so
Inside
good.
came out. White
That's
woman's
so good.
Instagram. But it does that kind of stuff. Like we're being called names all the time, and so if you can look at somebody and be like, "Wine mom, I got you," like that feels it feels empowering. Saying, you know what, this you're right. This is not okay out loud with others, even in mixed company, incredibly important.
Yep. Also, before we get to the song, because I like this song, but
I'd like to do the whole song too. I just thought
I
we
know,
could
I was
take
thinking that
turns.
too.
Okay, good. Because I figured you wrote the whole thing out.
Just to reiterate, like because so many people, and we really feel for you that you have little kids. It's hard enough, actually. It's hard enough for Lisa and I living with, kids who are trying to launch their lives into this fucked up world. So like,
Mm.
it's hard enough for us with adult children. Like really looking at that. Miles asked, "Have you ever been this scared?" And I was like, hmm, that's a great question because I've
A
studied a lot of
different scared.
history, and like part of me knows like this is obviously one of the worst things that anyone could imagine, and it's and not all just this one person. It's like what the things that led to
Yeah.
this, and this has like been a long game, and so we all have some responsibility in waking up to like what life's been like for indigenous and non-white people in this country,
Yeah.
and like really being awake to the misogyny that's all woven through even the past 2 weeks. So
Mm.
yeah, I think and that isn't just to say bad good. It's like all of us have to look at the systemic stuff here,
Yeah.
and so it's hard enough, but if you have little kids and you feel like you're just insane, like going between two worlds of normalcy to like reality, just huge love to you, and
Mm.
like just do what you need to do to navigate that for the long haul, really truly, because you, as much as we want everyone to stay involved, maybe that parenting that you're doing is what you're doing.
It all counts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
Song.
right. So, perfect fucking song for what it's worth by Buffalo Springfield. Why don't you start and we'll just take
Okay,
turns.
there's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware.
I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody, look what's going down.
There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind.
It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody, look what's going down.
You can keep going.
Okay, I was just saying, I'm just gonna keep doing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep doing the refrain, which makes me want to sing.
that's funny.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street singing songs and they carrying signs, mostly saying, "Hooray for our side."
Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody, look what's going down.
Paranoia strikes deep into your life. It will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line. The men will come and take you away.
Jeez.
Fucking hell,
So we
man.
better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody, look what's going around. Mm.
Oh my God. I mean, it's so interesting. This is an amazing song. I was listening as I was working out today to a song we quoted in 20 in season 3, but I was listening to the whole album of Mental Jewelry by Live, which came out in, I'm gonna
Mm.
say 91. There's a lot of songs because my Spotify Wrapped age was 58 and I'm only 56. So I listened to a lot of stuff from back in the 80s, back when in the time that we were growing up. And I'm constantly struck by these songs could be written today. Obviously, this is from the 60s. These songs could be written today. And on one hand, I think to myself, like, fuck, we haven't gone anywhere. And on the other hand, I think we've done this before and we can do it again. I have a good friend, you know him as well, David Poe, and he writes the most amazing protest songs. And again, I've known him for 40 years, and he's been writing these songs for 40 years. And they always meet the moment. And I just think to myself, in fact, we had a little conversation around this. He's like, I'd kind of love to stop writing these songs, you know? Um, you know, for you and I, music means everything, but yeah,
Yeah.
we can
Mm.
do this. We've done this before.
Yeah. I mean, I'd much rather be doing other frivolous things, that's for sure.
Me too.
Um, yeah. I mean, I just want to wrap this up and repeat that these are not normal things and times, and yet here we are. So however you're responding makes sense. And it probably sounds like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth. Like anything's fine and do what you can. How you show up, how you care for yourself and others does matter.
We appreciate you listening to us, the feedback we get that these land for you, and that hearing us talk about this stuff makes you feel more normal, makes you feel a little more grounded. And so we do. We invite you not only to share this episode, as we always say, but find one grounding practice and one point of connection this week. Regulate your nervous system. Again, by the time this drops, who the fuck knows what's going to be happening? So this is more important than ever because we are in this for the long haul. Uh, we want to thank you for staying engaged, for listening, and for knowing that you're not alone, that we're here with you. Um, yeah,
And
thanks everyone.
share this with someone else, please. Someone else might need to know that. Or did you just say that and I'm just repeating?
That's
Jeez.
okay, I did, but
Okay.
let's say it again. Share this episode because honestly,
This is what we do with each other. We share things.
totally,
Thank you.
over and
Thanks for
over.
letting me repeat. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.